Hello and welcome to another episode of Cúilín Media, where we review the action from this weekend. And it was a short weekend, to be fair. There was only hurling, one division in LGFA, that was Division 4, and obviously there was the Camogie as well on. There was no men's football on this weekend. Not a lot of games to go through, but we will go through them nonetheless. Today I'll be joined by Liam White on this episode for this week, rounding off round 6 of the Hurling League in particular. Our Prendergast will be joining in a little while. Séamus Brady's unavailable this evening, so we will take the wheel this evening. I suppose, Liam, we were talking about off air there. Not much games to discuss. It'll probably be our shortest pod, let's be honest, discussing all the games on this weekend. But yeah, nonetheless, I suppose a positive is all of us would have watched the top division games, so all of us would know what we're talking about, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. No, quite enough weekend, but still one that still brought about a few interesting stories from it anyways, whether it was people starting to wonder whether Galway will be much closer to Kilkenny this year in the Leinster Championship. Obviously, Limerick and Cork is always going to drop a few different stories. I suppose we had Waterford Tip, which was postponed, and my condolences, first of all, to the Kiley family and to everybody affected by it. And I have to say, John Kiley, just seeing his piece on Off the Ball as well, spoke really well after the game last night, and everyone else that were paying tribute. So just condolences to everyone involved, to the Kiley family, friends and family, Areshte Garev Adam. But yeah, and then you had the games today that were taking place, promotions and potential relegations there as well. So yeah, no, still a busy enough weekend from that perspective. But obviously, like you said, not a lot of games to be going into, but we'll dive into them nevertheless.
Exactly. So I'd like to obviously echo the sentiments you expressed to the Kiley family there on the passing of Benny. Obviously, Mikey is a brilliant hurler, and apparently Benny was at nearly every Waterford game supporting his son, and obviously that is a difficult time for the Kiley family, difficult time for Waterford GA and Abbeyside Bandacorty GA. So wishing all of them my condolences, and everybody in Cúilín Media as well, our condolences to the Kiley family on the tragic passing of Benny. And obviously, it goes without saying, the Waterford Tipperary game, it was the absolute right decision that the game was postponed. That'll be played next weekend with the football action next weekend. Areshte Garev Anam Dealish, rest in peace to Benny Kiley. But we will get into the action now, and we will start off with the first game of the weekend. There was 2 Division 1A games. Obviously, the Waterford Tipperary game was called off, but there was Galway and Kilkenny and Limerick and Cork. We actually will start with the Galway and Kilkenny game. Galway won this game 35 points to 17 in Pearse Stadium in a dominant display in Salt Hill. And I suppose, Liam, what a display from a Galway point of view. And I was thinking about this as well before even going on the show. They've played 5 rounds now, Galway, and they've been impressive in arguably every round. Like against Tipperary and Cork, they were very competitive in the first 2 rounds. Against Offaly, they got the job done. Against Waterford, a very impressive victory. And now this game, we'll talk about Kilkenny in a bit, but what a victory for Galway. And they've been absolutely sensational in this league so far.
They truly have been. And like, I've probably been Galway's biggest critic of the last year, but it's been mainly because I feel like there is more from this Galway team that we just haven't seen over the last year or two. But this is exactly what I want to be seeing from them, to be honest with you. Like, it is still early days. It is the league. Nobody wants to be getting carried away or anything like that. But that's the Galway that we got used to seeing in the 2010s. And that's the Galway that we want to see throughout the Leinster Championship, competing with Kilkenny. And what was really striking yesterday, and credit to yourself as well with all the stats, the continuous stats, absolutely brilliant that you're doing this every single weekend. I thought doing it for my own club was tough enough. You're doing it every single game, so it's really impressive. But yeah, when you look at the different range of scores that Galway had in comparison to Kilkenny, I mean, Kilkenny, and no fault of his own, got 6 points from play, got 10 out of their 17 points. You look at Galway, Aaron Nyland, Cathal Mannion, Rory Burke, Tom Monaghan, Conor Whelan, Tiernan Killeen, Ronan Glennon, Jason Rabbit, all on the score sheet. And there was a few others as well, but just to name those few off the bat. Cathal Mannion, 6 points from play. Aaron Nyland, 4 points from play. Rory Burke, 3 points from play. And he also had the sideline cut as well, which Shane Lowry would have been very proud of. Tom Monaghan and Conor Whelan, 2 points from play each. You know, like, just a really impressive range of scores from the Galway side. And yeah, it's a sensational performance. They defended really, really well. They didn't allow Kilkenny much space to operate. They were sniffing out the danger as well of the ball going inside to the full forward line, having the man back at every possible opportunity as well, taking their scores as well, running at Kilkenny, particularly Aaron Nyland, he had pace to burn in that game last night. You know, he's really coming to the fore at the moment in that Galway full forward line. Bringing, like, you're able to bring Jason Rabbit on, and he doesn't exactly lower the standard or anything like that. So yeah, look, a really impressive result from Galway, but this is what we want to see. This is exactly what we want to see from them going into the Leinster Championship. And with the fact that they do have Kilkenny at home in the Leinster Championship as well, I think the Leinster Championship this year could bring us a few surprises potentially.
Potentially so, and we are joined by the third member of the crew, and it is Aaron Prendergast here from Gaelic Games Fan TV. I suppose, Aaron, we were starting there on the Galway and Kilkenny game. Galway absolutely blitzed Kilkenny in so many ways in this game. What was your own thoughts on the match?
Yeah, absolutely. It was surprising in many ways. To be honest with you, to just see how commanding and how comfortable it was of a victory. I think a lot of us did expect Galway to win the game, and everything else just with the form of Galway and the way Kilkenny were playing. But yeah, I think to win in that kind of a margin, like 35 points to 17, you know, like if you've seen, you know, there's probably games Galway. You know, if Galway are playing maybe a lower tier county or something like that, you'd maybe expect it. But to beat Kilkenny by that kind of a margin, I think was really, really surprising. And look, fair play to Galway. You have to give them a huge amount of credit. I think we've said in previous kind of episodes that it did feel like for a long time Cathal Mannion was carrying the torch. But as Liam was kind of saying there, like the likes of Aaron Nyland, obviously having Conor Whelan back in the side as well was absolutely huge. Tom Monaghan, Tiernan Killeen as well. They're bringing through a couple of players, like even Rory Burke around the middle, I thought was very impressive as well, actually, from a Galway perspective. So it's looking good, but I think for Kilkenny, it definitely does feel like now's the time to catch them in Leinster, just with the way that they're playing. Like when you look at what they're scoring average wise, like they're hitting around like just under the 20 mark almost every game. And that just isn't what you'd expect usually from Kilkenny team. And even like their forwards as well, like they were very, very flat, struggling to create opportunities, struggling to create chances, trying to persist with a passing game that just isn't really working. And I have seen as well on Twitter a lot of people questioning Derek Lyng now as well, and kind of thinking, is he the right man to lead Kilkenny going forward? Like, I think it's an interesting one with Derek Lyng. I think he has done a good job with Kilkenny considering who he obviously took over from. But I've also seen the argument as well. Did he continue on sort of the work that Brian Cody was doing? And now as the years have kind of gone along, like his own ideas that he's tried to implement just haven't really worked. So it is an interesting one. And I think Kilkenny getting relegated from Division 1A would be very unusual to see, to be honest with you. But I think the way things are going, I think you'd have to say it's a possibility.
It might be a possibility, all right, look at that result. But if Waterford do lose against Tipperary next weekend, Kilkenny are safe regardless. So they have that safety net, to be fair, but we will see what happens in that rescheduled game next weekend. Wheel of Celtic is saying in here, Kilkenny were missing TJ, Lawler, Butler, Walsh, Murphy and Mullen. As a Galwegian, I wouldn't panic too much if I was Kilkenny person, and I don't think there'd be too much to take from it. Supposedly, I know Wheel of Celtic did mention a few of them players there. There's a lot of big name players, but at the same time, isn't it worrying from a Kilkenny point of view that not enough players are stepping up? As you mentioned there as well, only 6 different scores last night. Owen Cody got 2, Liam Moore got 2, Cian Kenny got 10 points. But that was the only notable scores on the score sheet. That was very concerning from a Kilkenny point of view. And they were never really in the game against Galway. Galway dominated them, and they were against the wind in the first half. That was very, very concerning.
Galway were better from the moment the ball was thrown in, to be honest with you. Like, I was down in Kilkenny watching this game, ironically, and I was watching it with a friend of mine who's from Kilkenny, and he was saying himself, if there's ever a year for Kilkenny to be caught in Leinster, it's this year, you know. And like, whether that's against Dublin, whether that's against Galway, I don't think it'll be Wexford or Offaly, as much as optimistic as I'd like to be. And I think it's too soon for Kildare, but certainly Dublin and Galway after last night will be looking at this going, okay, there's definitely a chance this year. And look, excuse me, TJ Reid being out is a big miss, obviously. Adrian Mullen's a big miss. John Donnelly, it's good to see him back, to be fair, and he will add a bit of stability to that forward line. He's always good for a couple of scores. You know, he's one of the most consistent hurlers that Kilkenny have, and for Thomastown as well, he's been a real leader over the last couple of years as well. Excuse me. But, and Mikey Butler being out and everything, and I know Hugh Lawler obviously is just an absolutely humongous miss for them, and so is Billy Ryan, who had arguably his best year in a Kilkenny jersey last year. But you just wouldn't associate it with Kilkenny. Like we've been mentioning it for the last while. There just doesn't seem to be that same sort of conveyor belt coming through in Kilkenny at the moment. Like in terms of a squad, you look at Limerick at the moment and you look at the squad that they have, not even just the starting 15, the squad that they have. You look at the squad that Cork have. You look at the squad that even Clare has and Tipperary. I would even argue Dublin right now have a better squad and Galway have a better squad than Kilkenny. Like you could argue that Kilkenny, even with Limerick or Cork, you could say, right, they might possibly have a better 15 if you put your best 15 out realistically from the county. That includes Hugh Lauder, who's gone, Billy Ryan. Kilkenny could make the argument, sure, but in terms of a squad, they can absolutely not make an argument. To be honest with you, like they're miles behind, in my opinion. So, look, they need to be getting more out of their forwards. Mossy Keown and Owen Cody can only do so much. And I mean, you saw last night with Mossy Keown, he was very quiet last night, didn't score, but he just didn't provide much either. Owen Cody was doing the best he could at times as well. In fairness to Lee Moore, he tried his hardest and he got a couple of scores as well. But they're just not getting enough out of them at the moment. And Cian Kelly getting, all the scores essentially from midfield is not a great look for them. And credit to Cian, he kept it going for them. But I'd be very worried if I was Derek Ling from this perspective. Look, whether he's the right man or not, Kilkenny should still be better than this, realistically, and the players have to take responsibility for that as well. But yeah, no, it's very worrying times for Kilkenny going into the Leinster Championship. Look, we could be sitting here in a couple of weeks, and I even said in a video earlier, I could come out in a couple of weeks and still say Kilkenny will win Leinster and could, potentially win an All-Ireland semi-final out of nowhere, because it is Kilkenny we're still talking about. But as in this moment in time, things are looking very, very, very worrying for them, and things are looking very good for Galway.
Yeah, it is very concerning for Kilkenny in many ways, and very good for Galway. And I suppose, Aaron, as well, as Liam talked about the number of scores there, another stat that really popped out of the screen. Galway had 51 shots last night. They had 25 points from play. They had a 65% puck of retention rate as well. Like, it was utter dominance. It wasn't just at the scoreboard. Galway were completely the better team last night, like in every aspect of the game. And it wasn't just the fact that they were in Salt Hill. It was just they dominated Kilkenny and they look more exciting. The likes of Jason Rabbit, who came on as a substitute, the likes of even Tiernan Killeen, who was tipping along Tom Monaghan. Even at some stages, like there was a stage in the game, Tom Monaghan could have played in Conor Whelan for a goal. Kilkenny were well open defensively. But do you think it's more down to Kilkenny's struggles, or is it more down to Galway's brilliance at this present moment in time and their consistency, which we haven't questioned about Galway over the last few years?
I think it's a combination of both, to be honest with you. And I think that's what makes the scoreline so big. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think if Kilkenny were going well as well, it probably would have been a closer game. Or if Galway were struggling, they might have still won this game, but it might have been maybe a narrow kind of win. But the fact it was so dominant, I said, like 35 points to 17. Like, I mean, to score 35 points against Kilkenny, like, I'd be very curious to know when's the last time, if ever, a team has ever scored 35 points versus Kilkenny. Maybe Limerick did in that All-Ireland final a couple of years ago. But generally speaking, like, that's not something that typically happens. And I know hurling has changed and evolved and everything else, and it's a much faster and quicker game now. But yeah, very, very unusual from a Kilkenny perspective. Like, the amount of space that they're leaving as well. Like, and even from watching the game as well, like the amount of times that Galway men were free and Kilkenny players weren't picking them up. Like, they do seem to be all at sea defensively, Kilkenny, and maybe is it not having Hugh Lawler in there, and maybe that is kind of a big, like, it's not just himself and what he brings to the Kilkenny side, but maybe like his leadership or how he's able to get other players on side or the structure of their defense or something. But as you said, you have to commend Galway because they have really, really improved. And look, I've said it before, I think Micheál Donoghue, for what he did with Galway in his first spell, what he did with Dublin as well, he is a top quality manager. He is a brilliant coach. Things didn't work last year, but it was his first season. It does feel like now, though, he is just starting to get a tune out of this Galway team, and they are playing the way that he wants them to play. And Galway are going about, like, they're kind of coming into the All-Ireland series as well as probably serious dark horses. Do you know what I mean? Because no one's really going to have them in the All-Ireland picture. Do you know what I mean? Just given recent years and everything else. But like, if they can win Leinster, which you'd have to say at this moment in time, they probably are the early favourites at this moment, even ahead of Dublin and you'd have to say ahead of Kilkenny right now. So going into an All-Ireland semi-final then. So it's, Galway could have a very, 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 very good season.
Yeah, exactly. So it is going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out. Peter Griffin saying in here, Kilkenny are the lowest scoring team in Division 1A. That is really, really concerning. He's saying as well, I'd fancy Galway to beat them in 6 weeks' time. Tom Green is saying in here, though, early days yet, wait for the championship. Ryan Gallagher on Antrim is saying the Antrim game put their confidence on the floor. I'm not sure what he's referring to there, but yeah, some very interesting comments there. But to conclude, I suppose Galway were absolutely superb. Kilkenny, there's a lot of work to do. They're still safe enough in the hands that Tipperary play Waterford next week. And if Tipperary win that game, then Waterford are relegated and they've saved themselves. But later in the championship, it will be concerning for Kilkenny. They'll probably make it in the top three when you look at the teams that are there. We'll talk about Wexford in a sec. But you'd imagine Kilkenny will make it into the top three in the All-Irelands in the Leinster Championship, in fairness. Going on to the second game now and going on to Limerick against Cork, 3-19 to 20 points. Limerick won this game in the TUS Gaelic Grounds. And there was a comment here directed to me, I think it was, and I have to bring it up because, Dara Hayes is saying, Matthew, you're not full chat now, Limerick Hammergy. Dara, I want to know exactly what you actually mean by that. I've been praising Limerick all throughout the last few weeks. I was the opposite with Cork over the last few weeks. I didn't want the hype to be around these players. And but look, again, I'm not concerned about the result last night. I said it in the preview show, and I've said it throughout the weeks. I said it on Red FM to Dan Casey last night as well. I'm not bothered by this result because it ultimately means nothing in the championship. Cork, if anything, we probably needed a reality check that we aren't up to the top level in Ireland this present moment of time. Limerick are up to the top level. And it's better to get this loss now than in July or June. Let's put it that way. Look, I just feel like some of the stuff said on social media about Cork last night was blown well out of proportion last night. Cork are still one of the best teams in Ireland. It was just a league game where they played their second team. Ultimately, I didn't care too much about the results. I don't think any Cork fan cared too much about the results either. Ben said last night that he cared and he wanted to win the game last night. Of course he's going to say that. He said at the start of the season he wants to win every game. He's not going to change that persona by time and things like that. But I'll switch it to you, Liam, before I have an absolute breakdown. I'll switch it over to you, Liam. What do you think of the game last night?
I want to see you have a breakdown. This is brilliant Sunday night entertainment. You don't get this on the Sunday game, folks. But no, I do agree. Like, look, it is a league game at the end of the day, and like Cork still had a strong team out, but that's not the team that Cork will have out the first round of the championship. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not, or at least it's not, say, players in the positions that they normally play in. Like Tim O'Mahony is not going to be centre forward come the start of the championship, or he's not going to be listed at centre forward. Shane Barrett's not going to be realistically listed at corner forward. Do you know what I mean? And you do wonder whether Damien Cahalan wing back, listed there. Like, do you know what I mean? You're not going to realistically be listing these players in those positions come the start of the championship. But look, it was an interesting game for Ben O'Connor to see what the rest of his panel is like at the moment. And like, look, being realistic, and like, I'm not blind or anything, Cork realistically will beat Offaly, or they should beat Offaly in a couple of weeks' time. So they'll have 5 wins and a draw out of the league campaign, which I'm sure they won't be too disappointed about, with their one defeat coming away to Limerick, which isn't exactly a bad result, to be fair. But you look at the team that Limerick had out last night, and you would honestly say it was probably full strength, bar you look at maybe Dan Morrissey, maybe Tom Morrissey at a stretch, maybe Colin Coughlin, who didn't start the game but were brought on. In comparison, like, Limerick had a fairly strong team out last night. But look, credit to Limerick still. At the end of the day, they got the win. Goals from Cathal O'Neill, Aidan O'Connor and Shane O'Brien. I think Cathal O'Neill is going to be in for a massive season. I will say that. I think he's going to be a huge presence, whether it's at midfield or in the half forward line this season. I think he's going to be huge. Shane O'Brien is continuing on his goal scoring form this season as well. Aaron Gillan only held to 1 point as well, which is interesting after he did that against Offaly last weekend. So I suppose he'll want to probably pick up his form sooner or later. Aidan O'Connor is moving very well at the moment, with not just a freeze, but from play as well, getting 4 points from play last night as well as the goal too. So look, a positive result for Limerick. They'll absolutely take it. They'll be buzzing with that. It probably, not that I thought they were in any sort of bother or danger or anything like that, but I suppose they probably would have been happy enough to have won this game last night to ease any sort of worries about potentially being brought into a relegation scrap or anything like that. But yeah, look, it's a great win for them. But yeah, like you said, truth is, Munster Championship in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, as well as a potential Munster final or All-Ireland semi-final or final, is realistically what is going to be worrying Ben O'Connor and Cork supporters realistically in a couple of months' time. So I doubt this result will be... I don't think it'll be keeping Ben O'Connor up at night or anything like that, and it shouldn't realistically keep Cork supporters up at night either.
It shouldn't, and Dara has replied in the chat, was just having a laugh. Cork, Limerick, I think are the top two teams at the moment. All good, Dara. Thanks very much for that. But yeah, Aaron, I suppose from last last night's game, like, to be fair, we talked about Kilkenny there having a low variety in their scores, and that's why they were outplayed by Galway and stuff like that. Even with Cork struggles, they had 8 different scores last night. Tim O'Mahony was very, very good at the freeze. Tommy O'Connell got 3 points for play. Brian Hayes got 3 points for play as well. As we alluded to there, it wasn't their first team at all. It was probably close to Limerick's first team if you take out David Reid. You'd probably have Peter Casey in place of him. But other than that, that was Limerick's first team last night. So the way the Cork actually squared up to them, especially in the first half, when they could have had a few chances. Like, if Alan Walsh's chance goes in the second half, we could have been talking about a different story here. So, like, it is commendable the way Cork played, but it is even more commendable to look at this Limerick team and the way they recovered from last year's loss to Dublin. They look absolutely scintillating at this present moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think firstly on Cork, yeah, like I didn't really understand all the hate that Cork were getting on social media as well. Like, it felt like, you know, like, it is Cork are going to be in the league final regardless, and no disrespect, Liam, but obviously with the fact they are playing Offaly in the final game, you would expect Cork to win that.
I don't care.
Yeah, is that why you're going there? Maybe is it just get as far away as possible?
Oh God, I'll be in a bar somewhere, probably still watching it, sadly, knowing me. But yeah, anyway, sorry, continue on.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. But no, look, I did think Cork played quite well considering some of the big players they were missing, and Dara Fitzgibbon and Sean O'Donoghue and a few others. You know, like Tim O'Mahony obviously scoring 7 points was very good. Tommy O'Connell around the middle was very good as well. And it was just the goals that ultimately did it from a Limerick perspective. Obviously, the penalty from Aidan O'Connor, brilliant early goal, in particular by Shane O'Brien. And, you know, like, in the opening 10 minutes, Cork were doing very well. Like, I think they held Limerick to one score, just a goal inside the opening 10 minutes. Like, that was quite impressive from a Cork perspective. But yeah, like, Limerick are motoring brilliantly now, it must be said. Whatever has changed since, because after the Waterford game, you kind of were worrying a little bit about Limerick. Like, it was following on from last season in the Dublin game. Like, everyone thought when they lost to Cork a couple of years ago, you know, in the Munster semi-final, or in the All-Ireland semi-final, people were thinking, oh, it's just a blip, Limerick will be back. Then next season they come back losing the Munster final. People are thinking that's a blip, but then they lose to Dublin, then they lose to, do you know what I mean? They just kind of kept going on. So it was a little bit worrying, I think, from a Limerick perspective. But it is the new lads that they have introduced. Like the fact that Aaron Gillane cannot be at his best, and Limerick can still beat Cork quite comfortably. Do you know, I think that's testament to Aidan O'Connor, to Adam English, to Shane O'Brien, to Cathal O'Neill. And these lads really are the new spine now of this Limerick team, and it does feel like kind of like a new team in terms of, you know, you still have like Tom Morrissey and a few lads kind of coming off the bench, but it does feel like a new Limerick side. And I think they're going very, very strong into the All-Ireland series.
Yeah, they look very good at this present moment of time, definitely. And I think Peter was asking the question there: if if Galway beat Limerick, are they in the league final? Most likely they are. Yeah, Limerick are on 8 points at the moment. Cork are on 8 points. Galway are on 6. And if Galway beat Limerick and Offaly lose to Cork or draw to Cork, which probably, no disrespect, Liam, that's probably the most expected outcome, then Galway will get second place above Limerick on the head-to-head. So that's effectively a league semi-final. That is a big game now, Liam. And like, Galway are going well at this present moment of time. Obviously, that wasn't Cork's first team. So is it arguable to say Galway will be the big test for Limerick in this early stage of the campaign?
I think it'll also show where Limerick are, or it'll show where Galway are as well, to be honest with you. I think the two of them at the moment have two very strong panels and are playing very good brands of hurling at the moment, have players that are really on form. I mean, you take the two number 11s at the moment, Aidan O'Connor and Cathal Mannion will be probably shooting the lights out in that game. That's in Salt Hill, isn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong.
think it is. I have to double check now.
I'm only thinking because it was in the Gaelic Grounds last year. I could be wrong in saying that. I believe it's in Salt Hill. I just get it up here. No, it's actually in the Gaelic Grounds. Okay, well, but still no, it's a great opportunity for both sides to really test their panels. Like Galway have looked impressive in games against Cork and Tipperary. Obviously, bet Offaly comfortably enough, I suppose, and then bet Waterford very well, and then obviously did what they did to Kilkenny. But yeah, and like Galway I'd say Micheál Donoghue would actually love to get to a national final and just to be able to say, listen, we're the real deal this year. We're coming back faster and stronger than ever. And they could be looking at what I saw somebody yesterday making a resemblance in a small way to what sort of Tipperary were doing last year. And at the moment, there's a lot of similarities to a degree, betting in a lot of young players, getting some impressive wins early on the league campaign. I suppose you wouldn't, I suppose from your perspective, Match, you probably don't want it to repeat itself, beat them in a league final and then obviously an All-Ireland or anything like that. But I'm sure Micheál Donoghue is looking at the moment thinking, listen, if we can get some national silverware under our belt heading into the Leinster Championship, it will do the world of confidence to these young players. And, having the pressure as well of playing on a big day, because whatever we think about the league, playing in a league final is still a big deal to players. Do you know what I mean? It's still, success and national silverware on the line at the end of the day. So I think they got to go and just target the Limerick game and just say, listen, we have nothing to lose here. If we lose, okay, we move on to the Leinster Championship. If we win, we're in a league final and we'll have a cracker against Cork potentially. So, but Limerick might be thinking the same thing. They might be thinking, look, after last year's disappointment, we got to get back on the high horse and prove that we are the best side in the country. But it should make for a cracking semi-final. And look, it's no disrespect. I know I'm kind of well aware that Cork will beat Offaly on the final day anyways. Cork will realistically be in the league final. But from our perspective, Dublin now on the 18th of April is the more important game. And I think now if we could avoid injuries against Cork, it'll probably be a bigger win, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it should be an excellent game between Limerick and Galway. And I suppose with Cork and Limerick, it was a very good game, good entertainment last night in terms of Owen Downey, I suppose, getting battered and bruised last night as seen on TG Carr. But as one of the comments said there, I think it was Ryan saying that Limerick have won a battle, but they haven't won the war. And there is plenty of games to come between Cork and Limerick. We will move on to Division 1B in a bit, but there is comments about the Leinster Championship in general. I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Aaron. Peter Griffin is saying in here, as it stands, Galway number 1, Dublin number 2, number 3, an emoji there, so we'll see who gets it there. But Woody Island is saying in here, Kilkenny have a big game with them when the knockout begins. Never underestimate the Cats. Peter Griffin saying in here, I think Donoghue will do a Jimmy and go for the league. I suppose looking at Leinster now, Aaron, it is very, very interesting. We'll get on to Wexford, Clare, as we talked about there in a sec. But like Dublin are going well at this present moment in time. Galway are going extremely well. Kilkenny now, where are they at in terms of the Leinster conversation? Is it the fact that they might be betting players in for the league and you wouldn't take too much into it? Or are they genuinely struggling? And would you expect Galway and Dublin to overtake them this year?
I think when you look at the form of Galway in particular, and obviously Dublin so far in the last couple of seasons, it does feel like the best opportunity and the best chance to do in a long time. Now, I do remember a couple of years ago, especially going into the Leinster final versus Kilkenny, a lot of people, a lot of Dublin fans, including me, thought we would have a brilliant chance at that final, and then Kilkenny absolutely wiped the floor with us. So it's easier said than done, to be honest with you. And I do agree, you can't write off Kilkenny too much because they do have an awful habit of turning it on. And I feel like with Kilkenny sometimes, especially I've seen this as a Dublin fan close up when we've played Kilkenny, there is almost like a bit of an aura about Kilkenny. The amount of times Dublin should have beaten Kilkenny, the amount of chances, opportunities, times we would nearly beat them, but they would just find a way to get it done. And like Kilkenny do still have that little bit in them that was kind of embedded into them kind of during the Brian Cody era, where Kilkenny, they were never beaten. You know what I mean? They would always find a way to come back into it. And even in games where they play poorly sometimes, they still often find a way to win. So I wouldn't be quick to write them off too soon. I would say at this moment that Galway, just given how well they beat Kilkenny and obviously playing at a higher standard in Division 1A, are probably the early favourites. I would certainly give ourselves a good chance. What I would say, though, is that I feel like maybe the best way to beat Kilkenny is in the round robin, to be honest with you. I feel like if it gets to a Leinster final and it's in Croke Park and everything else, I don't know. I just feel like if it was Dublin playing Kilkenny, Kilkenny, you'd probably still give them the edge, just with it being in Croke Park in the open space. Probably have TJ back by then and a few other lads. So Kilkenny will still be there, but Galway and Dublin are definitely improving, and this is looking like the best opportunity in a long time for Kilkenny's dominance in Leinster to be broken.
Yeah, exactly. So the Leinster Championship is going to heat up in the next few weeks, and we will talk about it more on the pod in the next few weeks. But we will move on to Division 1B now, and I suppose the Leinster conversation is tailing into this game as well, because it does involve the 4 team, and that is Wexford. They lost today 26 points to 120 against Clare. Much to Aaron's delight, I'm assuming. An absolutely brilliant result for Dublin more than anything in this as well. There was a commentary here from Aaron Gubbins. I want to bring it up there. Oh, yeah. Well, lads, great to listen to you. I thought Aaron would be wearing a Clare jersey today here, going up and James is celebrating. Yeah, absolutely. It was a brilliant day for Clare. Well, I suppose Clare could have lost today, and it still would have been a brilliant day in terms of playing the youngsters. Good to see Clare new lads playing well. Stritch with brilliance. Rin and O'Farrell played very well. And I thought as well, Jack O'Neill was absolutely brilliant from a Clare point of view as well. So, yeah, brilliant results from a Clare point of view in winning 6 games out of 6, and they go up to Division 1 with a flourish. Clare won the All-Ireland 2 years ago. They were very unlucky with injuries to key players last year. Wouldn't be surprised if they make a push hard this year as well. So yeah, I suppose, Aaron, like, a brilliant result for Dublin more than anything. But as well as that, for Clare to win 6 games out of 6 with more or less a second team. Mark Rogers wasn't playing, Tony Kelly wasn't playing, Shane O'Donnell wasn't playing, David McInerney wasn't fit either today, Eibhear Quilligan wasn't playing. So to have them, that amount of talent not playing, and Wexford playing for something in terms of a league final and getting promoted, that's a positive for Clare, that these young lads like the Dermot Stritches, like the likes of Jack O'Neill's, are really stepping up for Clare.
Absolutely, yeah. And just on the Clare jersey, we absolutely will get it on the wall in the background there at some stage. I won't lie though, I might wait till after the league final. I don't know, like wearing a Clare jersey on a weekend where we might be playing, it might just feel a little bit odd. So maybe we might wait until after that game before we do arrange it. But yeah, no, absolutely. Like when I saw the team announced for Clare, I was thinking, geez, like Wexford are going to have a real opportunity and a real chance. And look, they made a bit of a game of it in the second half. Wexford, like when they got the goal, you were kind of thinking, oh, this might be a little bit worrying from a Clare perspective, just given the amount of players that were missing, the inexperience as well. But they held on, and fair play to them, as we were kind of saying. Like Dermot Stritch in particular, hopefully I'm saying that name right. He was very impressive. Like 3 points overall, linking the play and everything else. He was outstanding. Jack O'Neill as well was very good. And although they did have Peter Duggan in a full forward, it was a lot of the kind of newer lads who came in. Sean Rin as well, kind of around the middle, was very good. And Clare were comfortable, and it was kind of a little bit unusual, to be honest, watching the first half, just how comfortable it was from a Clare perspective, because like Wexford really struggled. They struggled to create opportunities, chances. It didn't really feel like a game where promotion was on the line for Wexford. They couldn't really make, they got the goal in the second half, fair enough, but they were just really poor, I felt. They were really poor, like considering the game that was in it, considering the opportunity and the chance that was there for Wexford. They were very sluggish, and I do think it's the same all problems for Wexford. There is, without question, an over-reliance on Lee Chin. He scored 11 points of Wexford's 20. And look, to be fair, Simon Roach has been outstanding. He scored 1-6, and it was a really well taken goal in the second half, to be fair. But yeah, I'm not sure. Like it's a, I know a lot of people are saying the conversation about Dublin, Galway, Kilkenny, and maybe you might be tempted to kind of throw Wexford in the mix. But I think at this moment in time, you'd have to say they're a good bit behind the rest. And I've seen a few shouts even that Kildare could potentially beat them in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't be surprised by that. In fairness, we'll make that prediction closer to the time. But Kildare look very good, as we'll talk about in just a sec as well. But I suppose, Liam, I wanted to get this stat to you, in fairness, and this was puzzling to me watching Wexford today. As Aaron mentioned, it was a promotion, almost a big promotion tie for them today. Reading this stat off Twitter, obviously, I posted this today. Wexford had 1 shooting attempt from their full forward line today. That was off their full forward Foley, even counted the 2 subs that came. It's out of 5 players to play at the full forward line, only 1 shot. That's very concerning. Simon Roach and Lee Chin took a combined 24 shots out of 34 for Wexford today. Clare, in comparison, had 10 different scores. And when you look at the scores from a Wexford point of view, only 3 points came without Simon Roach and Lee Chin's influence, 2 from play. That's really concerning. Like Simon Roach, absolutely brilliant, as I mentioned there, with 1-6 from play. But if you're a Wexford fan, Liam, I know they've done well to get in this position, but that's really concerning, isn't it? If you're really relying on them 2 players.
I think Wexford, excuse me, I think Wexford could be in for a very challenging Leinster Championship campaign, if I'm being truthfully honest about it. Like, I even think we could beat them in the Leinster Championship. If we were to get a couple of players back before the championship, I think we'd have a good chance. And it's in O'Connor Park as well. Although they seem to have a good record at Wexford Park, and they always have that voodoo shit when they play Kilkenny, that they seem to beat them on the final day when Kilkenny are already in a Leinster final. They obviously don't have that this year because they switched around the fixtures this year. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just very worried for Wexford this year. I was worried about them last year. Like, even when I was down at Wexford Offaly last year, a journalist said to me, ironically, as a joke, he said, "What's that Joe McDonough like?" But he was saying that in terms of being worried. Like, he's worried for Wexford hurling that they could be down at that level, if not of last year, next year, or the year after. So, like you said there, the over-reliance they have on those 2 players is a small bit of a concern. And look, Keith Rossiter, he's trying to bed in young players as well. I understand that, as are a lot of intercounty managers. But I just didn't see a spark from Wexford today. Like, there was they're looking to get promotion, and look, not that being in Division 1B is exactly a bad thing, especially for a side like Wexford at the moment, but I didn't get the sense from them that they particularly wanted to go and win the game today. Do you know what I mean? Like, Clare were just playing at their peril, to be honest with you. They were playing at their absolute ease, and like, Clare had a real tough battle against Dublin on the opening day. I didn't see them having that same battle. I think Clare got a tougher battle against Kildare. Like you mentioned, Kildare are moving very well at the moment, and if Wexford aren't careful, they have to meet each other in the Leinster Championship. Don't be shocked if Kildare did pull off what would, I suppose, in the context of the last number of years, would be a surprise in them beating Wexford. Do you know what I mean? It would really shake up the Leinster Championship as well. So, yeah, look, Wexford at the moment, I do worry for them in terms of shooting accuracy, in terms of over-reliance on certain players. And just more than anything, I just didn't see a spark from them. I didn't see a whole lease of life from them, to be honest with you. It didn't seem like nearly at times they didn't want to be there. Yeah, like you said, Galway, Kilkenny, Dublin, in no particular order at the moment, are the front runners in Leinster. There's no denying that. And in terms of who's fourth, it's a coin toss at the moment between the rest of us, if I'm being totally honest about it.
Yeah, some interesting comments there coming in about Kildare and Dublin and all that. Ryan Gallagher with a very interesting one here. Aaron, Kildare could still beat you to the league final. That is a possibility. So
we do need to beat Carlow, to be fair. Like, we do need to say that it's not done. It's definitely not done. Look, we probably should beat Carlow, just given the form of Carlow recently and also how well we're playing. And we'll get onto the Dublin Down game in a moment, but yeah, I would fancy us to beat Carlow, but look, it's definitely still there for Kildare. And look, who could begrudge them, really? Like, if that did happen, fair play to them, you know. And like, what a story it would be for Kildare to play, and you know, the country's top tier in hurling. Like, that'd be some story if it did happen.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll get on to the 2 games in a bit. There, lads, in fairness, but just on Clare, because obviously we've been talking about Wexford a lot. In terms of Clare, Liam, do you see them as genuine All-Ireland contenders? Like, the players that have stepped up today, Tony Kelly and Mark Rogers weren't even playing, neither was Shane O'Donnell. Do you see them as genuine All-Ireland contenders?
100%. You know, like, last year was a bad year for them, but like, from 22 to 24, they were in 3 Munster finals, lost 2 All-Ireland semi-finals, and then won an All-Ireland. Like, they're not a bad team after what happened last year. Last year was just a bad year for them, in my opinion. But I think what really shows the character of the Clare team is the fact that John Conlon is still playing, given what happened to him a couple of months ago. I think that shows the spirit of them. And Brian Lohan seems nearly, I feel like, in a way, relegation has nearly done them no harm from last year. He's been able to bed in a couple of new players, a new lease of life. There's no media really looking at them at the moment. Do you know what I mean? There's not much, you know, they're not looking at them at the moment or going into too much depth about them, because they are obviously playing in Division 1B. They've had games that wouldn't be considered as hard as games in Division 1A. They're kind of going under the radar at the moment, but they'll be ready come the championship, in my opinion. There's no doubt about that. And I'd say they'll be looking back on last year thinking, we've a point to prove this year. Do you know what I mean? And like, it's hilarious. Their only 2 wins last year came against Limerick, so it shows that they can beat Limerick. They got a draw against Cork last year. They beat Waterford the year before, and And they absolutely, I mean, they lost to Tipperary by 3 points in Cusack Park last year. So I think, do I see them winning the All-Ireland right now? I don't. But in terms of being contenders or being contenders for the Munster Championship, absolutely, 100%. You have to have them. I think at the moment, the front runners for the All-Ireland in terms of the top 5, in no particular order, I'm just saying the 4 Munster sides, Cork, Tip, Limerick, Clare, and I would actually say Galway ahead of Kilkenny right now.
Yeah, exactly. So, and just to tie into the Clare comment there, Aaron Gubbins was actually saying that it'd be better for Clare to face against Dublin in the league final. We will get on to Dublin's game next. They beat down 6-32 to 18 points in Parnell Park. Obviously, not much of a point to talk about this one because it was an absolute procession. John Henderson scoring 2-3. Darragh Purcell was absolutely brilliant as well from a Dublin point of view. I suppose, Aaron, it was just about getting job done in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I wasn't at the game. I was at a christening yesterday, so I didn't get to see the game, unfortunately. But one of my mates who was at the game was just telling me, like, yeah, it was very, very comfortable, really, from start to finish. John Henderson again had an absolute stormer. He scored 2-3, but supposedly he set up other goals as well. He missed a few goal chances. Like, we were floating the ball in on top of him, and yeah, like, it was very, very hard for the down defense to cope, from what I've heard. So yeah, very, very comfortable. And I think, like, the most impressive thing from a Dublin perspective is that I've seen us play these type of games down the years and struggle to get over the line, and these games have become a battle and a fight. Whereas now, when you look at what we were able to do versus Antrim and in this game versus Down, like, we are getting a lot better at winning these games comfortably. And I think that's just a testament to how good Dublin hurling seems to be at the minute.
Yeah, it was an absolute brilliant victory from a Dublin point of view as well. While Down, the relegation isn't confirmed yet, but it is most likely Down will get relegated after the Ulster derby against Antrim in round 7. The final game, obviously, Division 1B, Liam, Kildare, brilliant victory over Carlow, 322 to 119. And amazingly, a lot of people are talking about Kildare preserving Division 1B status, which is a fantastic achievement anyway. But they're still in the promotion conversation if things go their way. If they beat Wexford and Dublin lose to Carlow, I'm not saying exactly will happen, but Kildare are getting promoted. It's a remarkable story. Merce Curtin with 1 goal and 2 points. As Liam, as Peter mentioned there, Kildare is a hurling stronghold. I think, look at this now, Kildare is a hurling stronghold. Will definitely do better than the footballers. Kildare hurling is definitely in a strong place at this present moment in time. David Qualter getting 10 points as well from a Kildare point of view. But Liam as well, the most brilliant thing from a Kildare point of view, look at the team sheet. Jack Sheridan wasn't there because he was suspended after his red card against Down, and they still beat Carlow relatively comfortably. Kildare hurling, you have to take them seriously now if you haven't already.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I think we say right Kilkenny off at your peril, right Kildare off at your peril at this stage. Like, they were, like, the scoreline doesn't even do justice to them. They were 219 to 9 points up at one stage. Do you know what I mean? And, like, against a Carlow team that on their day can absolutely give a game to absolutely anybody. Okay, they struggled against Antrim, and look, I think they will struggle against Dublin next weekend. But, like, Carlow are still the team that have the likes of Chris Nolan there. They've Jack Tracy, Marty Kavanagh, who I know got 2 yellows in this game and was sent off eventually. But this is just another step in the Kildare progression. Like, they got promotion from division or from the Christy Ring up to the Leinster Championship, like, straight away. If they get promotion from Division 2 right up to Division 1A, that'd be a remarkable story. And right now, I do think they're going to have a better season than the footballers. I 100% think that at the moment, just given the way they're hurling at the moment compared to how the footballers are motoring at the moment, it absolutely is a possibility. And it's a possibility that they go and beat Wexford in the final round as well. And you look at their fixtures as well in the Leinster Championship, they host Offaly. They could easily beat us. Like, that's not going to be a simple game for us in Connaughton Park come the end of May. They'll absolutely fancy their chances against Wexford. I don't think they'll beat Dublin, but they'll certainly give them a rattle. There's no question about that. And then, look, I think they're still a bit off Kilkenny and Galway at the moment. But no, it's, I have to say, really impressed with Kildare at the moment. Brian Dowling is doing a superb job with them. And like you mentioned there, not having Jack Sheridan today and still scoring 322 is very, very impressive. But at the same time, you got to give them credit for the players that they do have. David Qualter is a superb corner forward. Keegan at centre forward is savage as well. Colin McCabe is a player I really like the look of as well. And obviously you have the Borns at the back. Paul Dolan as well, scoring 4 points at a wing back as well, is very, very impressive. But yeah, it's Kildare are moving very, very nicely, and promotion to Division 1A. Look, I don't see it happening. I do think Dublin will have too much for Carlow next weekend anyways. But if Kildare could scrape even a top 3 finish or top 4 finish, it's serious progression. And they'll still get good games next year. Like, you'll have one of, in the end, like if they're in Division 1B next year, you'll still have, one of Wexford or Dublin to play against. You'll have Offaly coming down, and then you could have one of Kilkenny at the moment, Waterford, Tip, one of those games. So it's unbelievable. Laois promoted today. That'll be a good game for Kildare to get as well. So things are moving very, very well for Brian Downing at the moment.
They look absolutely sensational at this present moment of time. And I know, Aaron, yourselves would be expected to beat Carlow, and Carlow are in a tricky predicament themselves, obviously fighting relegation. But even for Kildare to be in the promotion conversation for Division 1B with Dublin, Wexford and Clare obviously top as well, but they competed well against Clare and Newbridge. This is a remarkable story in many ways as well from a Kildare point of view. And Brian Downing, the manager, deserves a lot of credit.
He absolutely does, yeah. It's been an incredible job from last season, like winning the Joe McDonough to all the way to now. And they're unearthing new players into the team. Their squad as well, the depth of their team is very, very strong. And especially when you look at the trajectory of Kildare hurling, and especially the way Wexford are going at the moment, like it's certainly not out of the realms of possibility that Kildare beat Wexford in a couple of weeks, but possibly also in the Leinster Championship as well. And I think a lot of people at the start of the year probably would have had Kildare nailed on to be relegated from Leinster, but I think now, I don't think they are. I think they've given themselves a real chance of being in the conversation to not be relegated, in regards to that. They're going very, very strong. Like I said previously, when I saw them close up in Parnell Park, I was a little bit worried for them, but I think it's clear now that Kildare probably were waiting until after that game before they would play their best stuff, because ultimately the games kind of following that were ultimately the games that were more important from a Kildare perspective, and they're going very, very strong, and the fact that they are in the conversation is massive testament to the management.
Yeah, he's exactly, no doubt about it. Dan O'Mara is a powerhouse in midfield. Like Peter's listing all the brilliant players from a Kildare point of view. Colin McCabe getting a brilliant goal as well today, and Darragh Goring as well. So yeah, what a fantastic win for Kildare, and they are on the rise. There's no doubt about that. We're going to go through the rest of the hurling leagues quickly, lads. So I will give you a league each. So I'll start with you, Liam, on Division 2 in their round 5 or round 6 games, that should be. So Laois beat Meath 28 points to 11. That confirmed Laois's promotion back to Division 1B. Meath are still in the promotion conversation, but a difficult defeat to take for them. Westmeath beat Derry 120 to 313 with David Williams hitting 110. That means Derry are relegated to Division 3. And Kerry beat Mayo quite comprehensively, 624 to 15 points. That means they're in second place in the table. Westmeath are also in 7 points in second place. So Kerry and Westmeath look like they're battling it out for second place in the division. Oisin Mansell got 2-6 from a Kerry point of view as well. So yeah, good result for Kerry, good result for Westmeath. And Laois are back in 1B.
Yeah, I suppose just to go through Kerry Mayo, first of all, look, it was probably a result that you expected. Kerry are still a good bit ahead of Mayo at the moment. It's good to see Kerry back winning hurling games at the moment, considering the level that they had been playing at over the last couple of years. So for them, massive boost in terms of, more than anything as well, scoring difference, which this could all come down to at the moment. And Kerry are well ahead of Westmeath at the moment, I believe, as well, in terms of scoring difference. I think they're like 50 odd ahead of them or something like that. So that's a significant result for them. In terms of the other two, it was funny because I called into work briefly just earlier today and was chatting to Jerry Russell, who was doing a commentary for us on Midlands 103, and he was saying himself, 68 minutes, nothing happening, and then the last 5 minutes, an absolute goal fest, like it was the World Cup final. Like, just there was a goal came from Micheál McGrath, and then a goal came from David Williams. You're thinking, okay, that's game, set, and match. And then Darragh McGillen got 2 goals in the last couple of minutes of stoppage time to really make it a nervy ending for Westmeath on what should have been a comfortable afternoon, and what was a comfortable afternoon for 9/10 of the game turned into squeaky bum time towards the end. But they got the job done in the end. Kevin O'Brien will be happy, I'd say, tonight just to be in this position now. But obviously they need a big result against Mayo come next week, and they need Kerry to actually probably slip up at this point, considering the points difference they have, and they're they're away to Meath next week, and I'd expect them to beat Meath. So it looks like it could be Kerry joining Laois in Division 1B next year. In terms of Laois, yeah, look, Tommy Fitzgerald said afterwards that he's still probably not fully happy at where Laois are at the moment, but he also said at the start of the year, the aim was to get back to Division 1B, and that's where Laois need to be. And I do agree with him. I think Laois are a team that they've proven it. They're too good to be in Division 2. And look, they'll have a final to look forward to in a couple of weeks' time, but you could just tell the difference between themselves and me today, to be honest with you. Like, I'd say if they had to go up another gear, I don't think it would have been too much of an issue for them, to be honest with you. But yeah, look, Laois motoring very well. Tomas Keys is in good form at the moment. Killian Dunn's in good form. They had Owen Riley, who was starting to go. I believe it was his first game in 10 or 11 years for Laois today as well. So congratulations to him on that. It's a great achievement for any man to, be able to play for their county, and especially after a long time. Aidan Corby, who I've been very impressed with over the last couple of years, not just for Laois, but for Clough Balacolla as well. Got 4 points for midfield. So yeah, solid win for Laois. They'll be happy to back up in Division 1B, and I'm looking forward to beating them next year.
Exactly. So there is comments in here about the passing of Mikey Cawley's father, Benny, as well, passing on their condolences to Mikey. Myself and Liam did talk about that at the start of the show, offering our condolences to the Cawley family. I suppose, Aaron, do you want to offer condolences too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. It was very sad kind of seeing the news kind of trickle through, and obviously the game getting postponed between Waterford and Tipperary. So absolutely, yeah, pass on my thoughts and messages and everything else to the Cawley family. Exactly.
So, and yesterday Greva on Diedish there as well. Looking at Division 3 there for the weekend's games, Roscommon beat Fermanagh 5-18 to 222. They're nearly promoted, but they aren't promoted just yet because of the results just here. Wicklow 21 points, Donegal 14 points. So Wicklow keep the promotion race very much in the balance with Podge Doyle scoring 11 points and Jack Feening getting 3 points. That means Roscommon are on 9 points. Wicklow are on 8, Donegal are on 8 as well. So it is a very interesting promotion battle there from that point of view. In terms of the relegation battle, Armagh and Fermanagh are relegated for Division 3. That was after Fermanagh. Well, Fermanagh were already relegated in spite of the results today against Roscommon. But Armagh's fate was sealed yesterday as they lost to Tyrone 3-22 to 11 points. Third at Mullen, the star there for Tyrone with 1-4. I suppose, Aaron, Roscommon, Wicklow and Donegal in a promotion fight. Wicklow getting a crucial win over Donegal today. Roscommon, that's in the mental game in beating Fermanagh as well, with Armagh and Fermanagh getting relegated to Division 4.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think it'd be great for Roscommon hurling, I think, to get up into Division 2. When you think of the exposure that Roscommon hurling could get, like obviously you're going to have Down, who most likely you would say are getting relegated from Division 1B, one of Carlow Antrim as well. So I think it'd be great exposure for Roscommon to get games like that next season. They've done really, really well, to be fair, in Division 3. But as you said, yeah, the win for Wicklow versus Donegal very much does shake it up. Obviously, Donegal play Roscommon as well on the final day. Roscommon do have the home advantage from looking at it here on Scorpio. So that'll be interesting to see. You'd imagine Wicklow will probably get over the line in terms of their game on the final day. So look, hopefully for the Rossies they can do it. I think it'll be, I've kind of said previously, nothing against Donegal or anything like that, but I think the more teams that we can have, more new teams that we can have coming along in hurling, I think the better. And I think for Roscommon to get up there, I think will be absolutely brilliant to see.
It would be absolutely. Sean Canning was a brilliant display from a Roscommon point of view as well, and he's done well in football for Padraig Pearse. It's great that he is on the Roscommon hurling team and helping them out. Look at Division 4 finally, Liam, in the terms of the National Hurling League, and that's all wrapped up even before the final round, because the results in these games were Sligo beating Cavan 8-19 to 12 points, which seemed like an absolute crazy game, and Sligo absolutely putting Cavan to the score in this one. Thomas Cawley getting 2-1, Gerardo Kelly Lynch with 2 goals. Andrew Kilcullen, obviously the man from Eastleigh, got 3 goals and 7 points in this game. Conor Hannafy got 1-3 as well. Warwickshire Longford drew 16 points to 113, but that result didn't matter. Longford are also promoted with Sligo to Division 3, so Longford and Sligo will contest that final. And Leitrim and Lancashire, Leitrim won that game to finish off their league campaign 228 to 15 points. So Sligo and Longford are promoted, Liam, and what a result there from a Sligo point of view over Cavan, who are decent enough hurling side.
Yeah, that one's really surprised me, seeing that score yesterday. Like, not in terms of Sligo winning the game, because I think we all predicted that earlier in the week, but just in terms of scoring 8 goals. Like you said, I wouldn't have expected that from Cavan to be conceding 8 goals. But look, Sligo for me are a team that should be playing in a higher division anyways, and it's no disrespect to the teams down there, but I think Sligo, like especially with the Eastkey players that they have at their disposal, they are a team that should be playing in minimum Division 3. And look, they should be a team that next year should possibly even try and get promotion even up to Division 2. Like, you know, the more teams, like Aaron says, we can get up to this level will only make hurling even better. And especially I would love to see, look, not just bringing these out. I know obviously Andrew Kilcullen had a very good game, as well as Thomas Cawley. I hope I've said it. I don't know if it's Tomas or Thomas, whichever one it is. But I would love to see the O'Kelly Lynches get a chance to play at a higher level as well. I can remember when Offaly played Sligo a couple of years ago, and the O'Kelly Lynches were absolutely sensational. We were looking at these two players thinking, geez, like these are lads that could play at the absolute highest level. If they went to any other county in the country, they'd fancy their chances of getting into teams. So, and another player, Conor Hannafy as well, who got 1-3 as well. So, look, I would love to see Sligo playing at the highest level possible. And for them to put out that sort of statement against Cavan is really, really impressive. Good for Leitrim to round off their campaign with a win as well. I know it doesn't mean anything for them ultimately now in the end, considering they've played all 6 of their games. But they've won 4 and lost 2, so it's not a bad record for them to have. But yeah, congrats to Sligo and Longford. They'll be replacing Armagh and Fermanagh. And yeah, hopefully it'll be a positive year for them come next year in Division 3.
Exactly. So congratulations to everybody involved in Sligo and Longford, and hopefully it'll be a good league final there as well. So that is the National Hurling League wrapped up. We will go on to the Camogie now in Division 1A. There was no Division 1B games this weekend, so we'll stick with Division 1A for now. That is the first game, obviously, Cork beating Kilkenny 115 to 9 points in St. Lachlan's at Freshford. I suppose, Aaron, this was, I wouldn't say a complete shock, because we knew Cork would snap out of it sooner rather than later after 2 losses in the first 2 games. But a few key players came back for this one. Saoirse McCartan, in particular, from St. Finbarr's hitting 6 points. Orla Callahan hitting 1-1 as well. And they really put a Kilkenny team that were flying up until now. They won 2 games out of 2 to the sword away from home. It's a brilliant result from a Cork point of view. And when you think about it, Aoife Prendergast got 7 points from a Kilkenny point of view. Only 2 came without her. That's a very good performance by Cork. Is it too soon to say they're back into form now?
Well, I think it was always one of them things with some of the players that they were missing. Like once they started getting some of those players back, like what you said with Saoirse McCartan, you would expect Cork to kind of rise up through the ranks. You know, they haven't become a poor team overnight or anything of that nature. Like, let's not forget, you know, Cork were the undisputable favourites for most people going into the All-Ireland final versus Galway. And we were saying, you know, it's going to be 3 in a row and everything else from a Cork perspective. And yes, they have lost a couple of those players, but there was still always once they got a few of those players back, they were always going to be, you know, back to, you know, closer to the level that we expect of Cork. I think the big thing was we didn't probably expect those players to come back for this game. And obviously Kilkenny, to be fair, have been going very, very strong themselves in the league. But I think it was one of them for Cork just after the opening 2 defeats and how the league started, staring down the barrel of relegation. I think they needed a response. And as you said, they absolutely got that with Saoirse McCartan scoring 6 points. Hayley Ryan was very impressive as well. Orla Callahan scoring 1-1. So very, very good result from a Cork perspective. Like disappointing for Kilkenny overall. Aoife Prendergast scoring 7 points there of Kilkenny's 9. So a little bit disappointing from their perspective. But look, they've had a fairly decent start to the league so far, so I don't think they'll be too disappointed. But yeah, massive win for Cork. And it just, like even looking at the league table there, like you've got 4 teams all with 3 points. So I think the relegation battle is going to be very, very interesting in Division 1A.
And potentially the race for second place as well, with Kilkenny on 6 points. Like, it is very, very hot at the top of the table and the bottom of the table. And this was another game included in that kind of mini league. Tipperary and Galway. Galway went to the Ragleam and beat Tipperary 113 to 12 points. And I heard on the commentary team on the Camogie Association's YouTube channel as well that Tipperary's record in the Rag against Galway in particular was very, very good. And it is a very difficult place to go. For Galway to win their first game, I know, again, like Cork, it's a bit overdue, but I suppose to win in the Rag the way they did by 4 points, Aoife Donoghue getting a crucial goal in this game in the first half, I believe. Carrie Dolan getting 7 points, Shannon Corcoran hitting 3 points. It was a very good win from a Galway point of view and a confidence booster, I suppose, for the season ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I think the one thing we mentioned the other day was we wanted to see Galway having a bigger spread of scores in comparison. Obviously, look, after what happened to them against before the Waterford game, you can kind of understand why they might not have been fully at the races in that game. But you'd have wanted to see a bigger spread of scores, and that's exactly what they got. Like, Caoimhe Kelly was the only forward that didn't score, but I've no doubt that she still worked extremely hard in the game and tirelessly to try and help create scores, etc. But yeah, like you said, you have Niamh Nyland and Shannon Corcoran who got 4 points between them. Niamh McPhee got a point as well. Niamh Mallon got a point. Eva Donoghue getting a goal. Good to see her back in a bit of form as well. Carrie Dolan doing what she does essentially every game at this point as well. So yeah, look, Galway probably needed a win at some stage, and I'm sure they're delighted to have gotten it, especially against a team like Tipperary. And like, look, at the end of the day, look, they had the game against Waterford, which it was even a miracle that they even got to play the game, considering what happened to them last week, being stuck in New York with all the snow and everything. And against Kilkenny, you're always going to have a bit of a sort of hangover after winning the All-Ireland the previous year for the first game of the league, realistically. Like we saw that with Dublin against Kerry in the LGFA. We saw with Kerry against Roscommon in the football. And even to a degree, Tipperary weren't fully at their best against Galway in the opening round of the league. And you see them now with the last few weeks, they've not been at their best either. So I think Galway now will kick on from this. To get a win away from home against a very good Tipperary side is crucial, to be honest with you. And look, Tip would still take positives from this game, only losing to the All-Ireland champions by 4 points. I know it's at home and everything like that, but at the end of the day, the league is still about trying to bed in new players and seeing what their players are like and building up fitness as the year goes on. And like you mentioned, it'd be interesting to see who does get to the final at this stage. Waterford are sitting in a very, very good spot. And Galway, I suppose Galway, look, I don't think they're realistically getting relegated, but might just ease their worries a small bit. Had they lost this game, they'd be stuck on 0 points after 3 games, going into some tough fixtures again. So I suppose just to even ease their nerves a small bit, I'd say they're just delighted to have gotten off the board.
Exactly, so brilliant win from Galway point of view. Peter's asking here, where is the rag? It's between Thurles and Neenah, if you know that country, Peter. Porter saying here, near Thurles, but in Drummond Inch Club, Séamus Camden country, absolutely, but it is on the road between Neenah and Thurles. So another kind of solution there is get out Google Maps and see where it is. But we will move on to the next game, Aaron. I suppose Waterford beating Antrim in Ballymena 116 to 9 points. It was a fantastic win for Waterford. That's 3 wins in a row, 100% record. Staying intact for the Daisha. Niamh Rocket hitting 5 points. Lorraine Brave hit 1-2 for midfield. Leisha Forrest also got the Player of the Match award for the Camogie Association with 2 points as well. Good win for Waterford, and they are absolutely flying.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think this was always a potential tricky game, just given what Antrim did to Cork a couple of weeks ago and everything else. So I think whilst we would have expected Waterford to win this game, it was always going to be a bit of a banana skin type game from a Waterford perspective. But as you said, yeah, Lorraine Bray, very, very impressive. Niamh Rocket as well. Leisha Forrest was very good as well, to be fair. So yeah, very, very good result from a Waterford perspective. And yeah, 3 wins from 3. So especially with how this kind of league is kind of panning out, you'd imagine Waterford probably have 1 foot in the league final at this stage.
Exactly. So, and yeah, it's a fantastic action to look forward to in the Camogie Leagues in Division 1A as well. Just running through the results of the remaining leagues in the Camogie. So, in Division 2A, Laois beat Carlow, a rivalry there, 211 to 2-9. Kerry beat Westmeath 10 points to 8. While Meath got the better of Derry, 212 to 111. Look at Division 3A, Roscommon beating Wicklow 315 to 6 points, and Armagh getting the better of Tyrone 411 to 210. And looking at Division 3B, Louth beating Donegal 6 goals and a point to 7 points. That was a bit of a weird scoreline there. And Mayo beating Monaghan 113 to 7 points in that game. So that's the Camogie wrapped up. And there's one more code, and that is the LGFA League, and that is Division 4 in the LGFA League, which was wrapped up today in terms of the league stage. Well, both of them one game. Offaly and Longford was postponed a few weeks ago, and that still has to go ahead. The results in today's games: Carlow beat Leitrim 2-6 to 11 points. Sligo got the better of Wicklow 217 to 111. Offaly beat Derry 314 to 18. While Longford beat Kilkenny 319 to 15. So the promotion semi-final matchups are Carlow, who finished first, will come up against Offaly or Longford, whoever wins that game in the remaining game that was postponed. And Leitrim will come up against Sligo in a Connacht derby that's second against third. And the winners of those 2 games will be promoted to Division 3. I suppose, Liam, I have to ask you about this because Offaly are in the midst of this promotion battle. Offaly are playing Longford in the final game. Would you expect them to get over the line? And if they do get over the line, will it be a difficult task of beating Carlow? Because I think they've won all their games in the league, which is a brilliant achievement.
Yeah, Carlow bet us earlier in the rounds, which was obviously a tough one to take. But I think this win will do a lot of good, especially getting a convincing win for Offaly. I think that's probably what they needed. Like, I know They had a good win against Wicklow at the start, and obviously looked at the big win against Kilkenny. But just given the season that Kilkenny have had, and they did improve today, obviously scoring 1-5, which is a lot bigger than what they've been getting over the last number of weeks, when we've been saying it was 1 goal or a point that they've been getting in all their games. This could do a lot of good for Offaly going forward, and I hope it does. And look, do we have a chance against Longford? Absolutely, 100%. Longford are a good side, but I would give our girls a big chance. To get 3-14 today against Derry is a very, very impressive feat. And like, Offaly haven't really lost the games by big margins either. Like, they lost to Leitrim by, what was it, 2 points in the end, or it might have been 3 points. It was 1-11 or 1-10 to a goal in 8. Lost to Carlow by 2 points. Like, they're not losing games by big margins or anything like that. And yeah, I feel like sometimes you just need like that one real convincing victory to really help you along the way. And I really hope this does it for the girls, because they're a very good, honest bunch of players, and they're doing everything they can to try and get themselves back up the divisions after what was essentially a torrentious year in 2025 last year. But things seem to be motoring along very nicely at the moment, and hopefully now they can get themselves promoted back up there and get themselves a nice semi-final to look forward to.
Yeah, exactly. So Ryan Gallagher saying here Longford were struggling. So yeah, that's a point to mention as well. But Carlow and Leitrim look very good for promotion there. But we'll see what Offaly, Longford and Sligo have to offer in the next few weeks. But that is the action wrapped up in terms of hurling, in terms of LGFA, and in terms of camogie for this weekend. There's a lot busier schedule next week in terms of the football, and we will look forward to reviewing the action and previewing the action on Thursday as well. So from myself, from Ardred, from Liam as well, from this show, thanks for viewing. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff on Cúilín Media as well, and follow all our socials everywhere in social platforms. But until Thursday, we'll see you all then. Take care, and thanks for viewing, and we'll see you next week. Instinct, baby.